Hey guys, Sir Wayne here, bringing you guys another YouTube video on Call of War. Now today I'm going to be talking about Call of War 1.5, and this is my opinion, guys. This is not anything super detailed and all of its glory. If you want to see and read about more details about Call of War 1.5 and how it truly went, you click go to the forum here on the home page, and you can bring up the actual forum, and you can go to the Call of War 1.5 round 2 and actually read what everybody is saying about the Call of War 1.5 round 2. I'm definitely not going to be getting into all of these details and all these pages of everything that these guys are talking about, because this is just a round of an experiment. This is just a 1.5 experiment run, just like round 1 was, and round 1 is completely different than what round 2 was, which I might add, round 1 is a little bit better in my opinion than round 2 was, but I think a lot of other people would disagree with that. But that's just my opinion. But I've noticed in the 1.5 round 2 that were different from round 1, that more units, as well as the 1.0, that there are more units that are useless. Like in the round 1, they made every unit essentially useful. Like in this one, you know, militia is basically useless again. So and as well as other units, and we'll get into that, but just know that this is my opinion, guys, and everybody has a right to it. But I'm just going to talk about 1.5 round 2, and hopefully round 3 will be a little bit better. But first off, the upgrade units, they added the upgrade tabs, and if you click, let's see here, click this, you see the little upgrade tabs there in each one. Now if I was to click and upgrade them, I want to show you how much it costs. Now I know I have a ton of resources because I haven't been building anything, but I'll get into that in a little bit. Look, to upgrade all this, look at it. 29,000 food, 35,000 goods, 40,000 manpower. Are you freaking kidding me? Who's ever had 40,000 manpower? So, I mean, to upgrade that. So, it's quite a bit, and you can upgrade it anywhere. Now, you can't move these troops when they're being upgraded, so, which is pretty cool. And the planes have to be on the ground to be upgraded. Now, meanwhile, these upgrades can't be moved, so if they're upgrading, they can't move, and I'm pretty sure that they can't fight. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they can fight at all. Let's see here. This was very. I picked the Caucasus. Wanted to be to the wall, so I'd have like a free hand and a computer here, so I didn't bother with it. I teamed up with some of my buddies. They joined the game with me. Farrell, Torp, Arnold. So I don't have to worry about them messing with me. They actually helped me out. But this was very, very challenging. When you go into construction, your industrial is all about increasing the resources, which is of what you're making, which is very, very interesting. And let's see if we can click this and bring this up here. Here's an industrial. So you increase, for each level you'll increase the resource and the manpower, which is very interesting. So you definitely want to increase, so it increases your economy, which is a really nice change. I really like that. And of course you have the tank plants for anything that's in the tank column, which is here. The ordnance foundry, which is here, which is a new thing. They're doing ordnance foundries now instead of which is like artillery, anti-tank, anti-air, SP, artillery, anti-air. So instead of putting them in the infantry, and they also take the commandos and put them in the infantry. Now, if you've seen 1.5 round one, experienced that, you've seen that they did this. So this is just another test run. So I like I said, I don't want to go into super depths about the round two because I'm sure there's going to be a round three, and then we'll be talking about that as well. Hopefully they'll fix some of this other stuff. But infrastructure, I know infrastructure was a really big deal in 1.0. It was just a really cool thing. Increased your resources and just so much. Now it only increases your land speed and your morale development. So let's just say this is basically useless, especially in this 22 map. Bunkers got to decrease. They're not as good, but they're a lot cheaper. So hey, nice trade-off. Works for me. Some things like aircraft factories will be built in the actual cities. Well, if you build airstrips in the rural areas that you can't build things, you can also only build in actual cities. And if you remembered, if you didn't have an IC, which is industrial complex, and outside, or if you didn't have an IC, you couldn't build anything. You had to have an IC, unless you were trying to build militia and you had a barracks. But aside from that, you couldn't build anything. Here, you can build anything. Like if you, this is not mine. This is Turkey's. I took it from him. If I wanted to build a tank, I would just click build. It'd be ready in 30 minutes, and I would just build me up a tank. So, I'm real conflicted with how you build your troops. Do you want to go level 1? Do you want to build level 2s? Do you want to build level 1s and upgrade them to level 2s? Well, like, it's ridiculously expensive. And if you look it up in the forum, they talk about it. Shout out to Torpedo 28,000. He's a good friend of mine and a fellow regular member. And anyway, so he goes over what it's all about, and he goes into details how much it costs your level 1. It's like it's the cost of to upgrade to level 2 will cost you the level 1 and the level 2 of the unit, which is extremely expensive, as I showed you here by just clicking here and trying to upgrade. I mean, that's ridiculous. So we're all going to try to strategize to figure out what would be the better option. And what I decided to do was, a lot of people have decided to do is you just go upgrade, and just like for planes, for example, if I were going to do planes, I would level them up to about like level 3, because I'm not really using planes right now. Level them up to level 3 and then start pumping them out. Or I could pump them out at level 1 and then skip the level 2 and then upgrade them at level 3, and it would be cheaper at that point. But for to level them up each level, it'd just be a waste of resources, a waste of manpower. Manpower is a little bit better in this game. I found myself running out quite a bit. In this game, I fought a guy that was using gold, and he just spawned a bunker, a level 3 bunker, in 10 minutes. So yeah, obviously the guy was using a little bit of gold, so I used a little bit of gold and get my put some manpower out. I like how the materials, like all your materials, you had to be used for something. Like if you look at what has to be built, like what it costs to build something. If you look at the infantry, you're gonna have food, goods, manpower. If you look at that, it's going to be the same, except there's a little iron involved. There's no iron in this. With the ordnance, there's a little iron involved. And if you go to your tanks, of course, you're going to have oil and iron and manpower, of course. But everything else is a little bit lower. Now, if you go to planes, you're going to have a lot more rare, a lot more, but not as much as goods. A lot more manpower, resource rare, as well as oil. But if you go to your navy, there's no rare at all. So the navy's a lot different. Also, I might add stat wise, like they changed a lot of these stats. But if you go into the stat wise, like look at their attack and defense. Like look at, they're all the same. The attack and defense is the exact same. So that's different. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like the fact that, like last time, the destroyers are all about attack, not defense, which makes a little bit more sense. Subs attack. I think the subs should have a little bit more attack than they do with defense, because subs are actually realistically weak, but you know they're under the ocean, so they're hard to detect. In this version, light tanks were really garbage. I didn't even build any. I didn't even research them whatsoever. Light tanks are just really bad. I thought about going up to level 3 and then just pumping them out at level 3. Armor cars are a lot better. They do really good against infantry, really good against defense. I feel like there's a big gap in the tanks. I feel like there's not really tanks. I haven't seen anybody really build tanks in this version because the stats are just not good at all. I mean, like they're just not even good against infantry. Like look at this crap, 2.7 against infantry. I mean, it's just garbage. So it's just not very good, and that would that also makes armored cars a lot better, because you don't have to, because armored cars weaknesses a lot of tanks or tanks in general, and if you're not building no tanks, then you go away with armored cars because you're not going to be dealing with them, right? You're just dealing with the infantry. Your tank destroyers are crap again. That's a huge disappointment. In the 1.5 round 1, tank destroyers were freaking amazing. Now they're defensive. Like, when is tank destroyer a defensive unit? Like, I mean, I get it. Just about as much as an actual tank would be, I would think. But if you see, you know, I mean, tank destroyers would go with actual tanks. They used, during the War II, they used tank destroyers as actual tanks as well, and followed along as the actual tanks, not like they were set back in cities or whatnot. There's a problem with the infantry. Like their stats are pretty garbage. If you look at their stats, is pretty bad, but they still get a 2.3 against defending against tanks. Now remember, tanks was like 2.7 and against attacking infantry. How's a tank able to deal, or not be able to deal with an infantry? Yeah, it's a little more, but it's just not enough. And like I said, if you read into these forums, you'll see some more details about it. There's definitely a lot of that. But I think if you in cities, I think they should get like 100 or 150%, maybe against armor or something like that, because there's so many places to hide in the city. Tanks didn't really go into cities because, or they did, but you know, they were just easily hit by rocket propelled grenades, things like that, tank busters, all kinds of stuff. So, they were just very vulnerable and very weak to go into actual city. So that would be pretty cool. Maybe they, instead of have 50% in the city, maybe they have 100% in the city against tanks, or 150% against tanks, or something like that. But the tanks really need to be boosted. Something needs to be done with the infantry because they're just far too weak. A lot of people complained about the AAs, anti-air, and anti-air is, anti-air is decent. I think, like against the air, 5.5, that's decent. Air is like the most dominant unit in the game. If you're not including, as far as rockets, you can avoid rockets, but as far as like the really dominant, not really that much weaknesses, air is really the dominant thing. So to have air being at 5.5 is a little bit better. I personally probably would like it a little bit higher, but it is what it is. I'm not going to complain. A lot of people complain about the defense or against tanks, and it being unrealistic. Yes and no. I could see it being unrealistic because of how in World War II, the Germans had the 88 millimeter, anti-air gun. So, and it would bust tanks. It didn't matter what it was; it would bust through it. And it was an anti-air gun, but they used it for anti-tanks, and it was really good. I mean, I could see them leaving the planes and not making the tanks so good against the tanks. Like the tank was 2.7, so if you're defending with 2.5, your anti-air is going to beat the freaking tank. It's crazy. So I can see where they would need to debuff that a little bit. Maybe make it 2.0, buff the tank up a little bit, or make it where it gets an increase in the city or the mountains or wherever they could hide, give them some defensive bonuses that way. That way the tanks could, out strategize them that way. Because, you're not going to send tanks into a city, usually. You're not going to send tanks in the city or in the mountains. You just understand the environmental differences. So I could see them making it like that. But I see where guys argue 2.5 against tanks or 1.5 here against light tanks. 2.5 against heavy tanks, that's pretty sick, dude. But heavy tanks are better against the infantry column. Let's see here. Anti-tanks were interesting. I don't think I'm looking purely on the lower levels, but I don't think like the anti-tank should really have much, like 0.3 or something like that, because you're not going to shoot anything down with an anti-tank. Get real, it's just not going to happen. It's in the city. You're putting it in a building or something like that. You're putting it hidden somewhere to hit a tank when it comes through there. Yeah, and it should it should definitely be high. 5.0, 6.0. It should definitely be very high. Let's see here. Only thing I got to say about the naval is the attack and defense being the same on everything is just crap. I don't like it at all. I haven't looked at the secrets. Motorized infantry are very, very, very stout, super stout, very good. And if this were 1.5 to be released today, motorized infantry would be meta. That would be one of the best units. I haven't built any infantry because of how not good it is, but I've noticed mechanized infantry. What are your thoughts on that, guys? Look at the attacks, and the stat was 6.5 against light tanks. So your mechanized infantry would whoop the crap out of a light tank, which is crazy. And 4.0 against air. Infantry 11. I mean, that's insane. That's insane, guys. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, and all you need is a barracks level 1 at day 6. Oh my god, it's so insane, guys. What are your thoughts on that? Please tell me in the comments below, what do you guys think about that? I haven't looked at the commandos or paratroopers. Those are very situational. But, jeez, mechanized infantry is so stout. Gets a boost in the cities, gets a boost on terrain, so I mean it's super good. So I mean it's even really, really good. That probably should get nerfed a little bit. That's insane. I probably should build that. I'm definitely gonna have to build that. I've upgraded the artillery to level 3. I've been running the slow route of building up a stack, protecting with the AA, because the AA is a lot better, and attack that. So AA, AA is a lot better. I got a 6 here, a 2. This is level 2. They also made it to where instead of a 10 stack, if you had more than 10 of the same unit, you used to get a debuff in the 1.0, but now it's 15. So notice how I have 15 artillery going to fire at that. So I'm trying to get the maximum amount as I possibly can. Let's see here. I noticed that the tank destroyers, the defense was a little bit higher, and then the offense, they made it into more of a defensive weapon. Now that's a really good tank against heavy armor, even light armor. Absolutely nothing against the infantry. And it shouldn't do anything against planes. Like guys, a tank destroyer is not going to shoot down a plane. It should have less than that, I would think, 0.5 or something like that. As well as armored cars. Armored cars not going to shoot down anything. And if you look at the armored car is really, really good. 4.5 against infantry, 1.5 against planes. Like, when does an armored car shoot down a plane? Come on, get real, guys. This is level 1. And it still gives a 2.3 against light tanks. So, like, it's against the light tank class. So, it just really, I really hate how light tanks have really fallen. Very, very much. They're just such crap. Your anti-tanks, I already went over those. I still think they should get a debuff on the air. Cash seems to be a little bit low in this department, especially the first couple of days. Manpower is really low. I noticed that, like, this was my highest manpower, and this was not a province, was not a city, but I constructed the industrial to level 3, which is the max you can do in a royal area, a non-city. So, and it gives like 155, no, 250% more. So I'm getting 3,000 manpower for that. And same thing if you build in an iron city, or a goods, food, whatever it is that you're wanting to build it in. But I noticed that this was the highest area for me to get manpower, so I built a level 3 industry there. A level 1 here for iron. And you can do those in all these. Now you can do level 5s in the cities, but you can do a level 5 in the cities, but it's not increased as much. It's not as much. But your industries, like your cities, already producing so much, you know, of that resource. Like, it's a lot. Like, but you can see I'm running really low on rare, so I'm building up the industrial. Now, I like the fact that in this game, this 1.5, what I like about it better than the 1.0, which is 1.0, when we refer to that, the 1.0 is the regular game. So what I like about the 1.5 is you can build your economy up a little bit instead of just having to invade all the time. And you can build your economy up a little bit instead of just having to invade other people. And you can go, hey, his economy is not as strong as mine, so I should win the long war, right? Yeah, sure, you should. And it makes you think, should I have to upgrade to level 3 now, or level 2 now, or am I going to wait for a level 4 to come out and just build level 4 units? Notice I'm not building anything, guys. I mean, there's nothing here, so there's nothing that I'm building, because your resources do run low. Things are built a lot faster. Like, if I were to produce an artillery, well, that's a level 3, so bear with me. If I were to build an anti-tank level 1, it would be 2 hours and 45 minutes, and those materials would be gone, and you would just really run out of resources really, really fast. So I can't say it enough on the upgrades to fix that. I think that's probably the biggest problem in this game, is when you upgrade your units, they're just way too expensive. A lot of people are complaining about how they don't have troops. Not a lot of troops at all. If you check me out, I'm not very high up on the list, but I have 80 divisions, 80 units. But look at Pharaoh. He's like I haven't built troops in probably a day or two, and he has 84. Like, barely outnumbering me. Let's look at Pharaoh, or Tor. Shout out to that guy for helping me make these videos. Torpedo 28,000, such an amazing player. He has 48 units. I think he's gonna go for upgrading his units, or building like high level end troops, and not really needing to build them right now. Look at Arnold, he's got 49. So you see, everybody's got less troops than me, except Pharaoh, of course. He's got a little bit more. He's building more. And that's probably the way to go, is to really spam out the troops, and regardless of what their level is, spam them out, and then just go after territory. But you can go the economic way and build up your economy and attack as well. If you go to build up your economy, let's see here. Let me find. Here, let's just do a random province. You hit construction, and this is a local industry, but you see a lot of iron, a lot of oil, a lot of rare. So a little bit different. There's no goods, there's no food, so it's different. So not like round one where you had to have every little resource possible. I like the market. There's a lot of food. Like I don't. If you go the route of not really, like I feel like there's more resources here. I'm not building any more troops, so I'm getting like 500 an hour of food. That's unbelievable. That's awesome. You know, because I'm building, level 5 industry here for the food, building up the. Well, I thought I was building that up. I guess I wasn't building that up. Maybe I canceled it, but I thought I was adding to this here in the industry and building it up, but apparently not. So, but it's very interesting to see what you're going to run low on. When I first started, I was running low on food and goods because I was building troops. Now that I'm building up my economy, I'm running low on oil and rare material. So, I'm not running low on cash like a lot of people were, but this is later on. This is day 6. So, but there is just so much. I think the biggest things are the upgrades, the tanks. I mean, you got to make the tanks better. The tanks have to be relevant in this game. Tanks are one of the most iconic units in any game, in any war. You have to have tanks. They have to be relevant. You cannot make a war game without tanks. They have to be relevant. Sorry, but it just happens. When you're bombing something like your artillery, or you're fighting something or whatever, instead of every 30 minutes, every hour, like 1.0, you get a damage done. Now it's every 30 minutes. So I love that. I love how it's faster. I really like that. But I think in war games, it should follow the basic concept of, infantry is going to die to tanks. And this is, just common knowledge, not saying environmental difference, like whether it takes place in the city or mountains or anything, different terrain. But if it's straight up, infantry should die to tanks, tanks should die to planes, and infantry should somewhat kill planes. I definitely think that as I've spoken before, the anti-air did well. I think that the planes should be put in their place somehow or another because they're just way too powerful. So I think all units should be useful in some way or form, somehow be useful. I don't think there should be a unit too powerful, way more powerful than the other. There shouldn't be nothing useful. You should say, well, there shouldn't be a unit like militia, like where it's just not usable. There's no point in using it. What scenario would you have militia? Ever, never would you use it. Like a tank destroyer. What would you use tank destroyer for? Like what for what? So, just units like that, they should definitely fix that. And I feel like the Navy is just more unrealistic. The attack and defensive, everything is the same. Like if your attack is 6, it's the same as the defense. Like if you look at the Navy, that's what it is. And it's just really sad and really garbage. Like why would you do something like that? So it's just really crappy. But anyway, guys, I know, sorry this video is so long. It took so long to get out, but this is my opinion on the 1.5. And I'm sure I missed a lot of things. I'm sure I'll remember things when I get off this video, but it is what it is. Comment below, like, comment, subscribe, and please let me know in the comments what did I forget and what did you guys think. And read that forum if you really want to get into the details of how this game is and really what the problems are as well as the positives. I like it. I don't like the game as much as 1.0 or the round 1.0. So, or the 1.5 round 1. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching.